Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Onion Soup, the show where we pull back the layers of metaphysics and reality in order to demystify spirituality. Today, we have a wonderful guest with us, Miss Alessandria Veronesi. She is the founder of Holy Shiver and the author of the book A New Banana. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, Dexter. How are you?
Doing wonderful.
It's so fun to be here. Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm so happy to have you here. It's really exciting to me because a lot of your transformation came during the lockdown, to my
Mhm.
understanding, right?
Yeah, it all just kind of unraveled there. It was really nice. It was very efficient.
Right. I feel like a lot of people had the opportunity to do a lot of introspective work. So tell us about Holy Shiver.
Sure. So, Holy Shiver is it's just kind of a name that came up in the earlier part of actually right before COVID with a friend of mine, and it was a bit of a joke. He said you should write meditations, and it sounded like the other expression. I don't know if we can curse, but it did sound like holy shit. So, in my ironic perspective, I thought, yeah, let's go with it. And and life is hilarious. So we can also see it as a funny name. But of course, Holy Shiver also stands for that moment of revelation that we have in a particular spiritual instance where something suddenly hits us and we feel an embodiment of an understanding that we didn't have before or that wasn't yet unveiled to us. So I felt like in any case the name stuck.
Interesting. So you say a lot of it came up before the pandemic happened. So does that mean you were already interested in metaphysics and spirituality and things of that nature?
I would say, of course, we always are, like, we hold all the information inside. So at a very unconscious level, I was in situations where maybe I was either acting with energy or, away from it, but I didn't have the awareness that would have given me the insight to take action on any of it. So for sure, something was still driving me back then in the way that it knew best to get through to me, which was through
Mhm.
irony. And then, I think everybody has that one moment where they go from, before and after,
Mhm.
and then suddenly things start to make sense and you start to look for things once you understand, um, for things to make sense in a new way. And so I definitely was not as aware back then at all. So
Mhm.
when the name came up, it was really just great,
Yeah,
fun.
it's so funny you say that because when I would say I had a very similar experience. For me, I've always been interested in knowledge for the sake of knowledge. So I love to read, and I've always picked up just various books. But prior to the pandemic, I was definitely more into the intellectual aspects of it. And like you said, the energies were trying to direct me in a particular direction. I just wasn't aware of it,
Mhm.
you know?
Well,
And
the
then,
mind, we're so used to working only with the mind, and the mind is a beautiful tool, but it's one of many. I mean, connecting to the heart, connecting to our soul, or, everything that's there to support us energetically, known and unknown, seen and unseen.
mhm,
This is the whole, the whole ship. And so when we kind of live our lives like following a tried and true path and doing our best and getting up and being disciplined and working out and going to work, this is one component. I mean, it's about
mhm.
coming full circle and not forgetting that we are human beings in a very, very dense earth. So yeah, I'm the same. It was the
I
same
think
for
that's
me.
very important because I was just saying in a previous episode actually that the idea is not to be completely, let's say, spiritual, nor is the idea to be stuck in the material world. But what we want to do is to be in balance. You know, we do have our
Mhm.
spiritual selves that exist in the higher realms and dimensions, but also we still live here in the physical world.
Yeah.
You don't want to get so lost in your this upper chakras or upper dantian that you don't have any connection to physicality.
Absolutely. It's all about that balance and, being in a state of neutrality with a little bit of happiness, a little
Yes,
extra happiness if you can sprinkle it on.
for sure.
about coming full circle. And it is, you get whatever you need, when you're seeking, with the right pure intention. If you need to be more grounded, then ground yourself. If you need a little bit more sparkles and higher perspective to keep you going and give you more positivity for your day, then you can tap into that and bring that in.
So I know that while you're talking about guiding people towards listen to your body and what you really need energetically and physically. So is that something that you talk about a lot with Holy Shiver on your website?
Yeah. So the website is really just like a portal for people to figure out ways if they want to connect with me. Something I did during COVID, what really revolutionized and expedited and intensified um, this awakening was meditation for me. So I discovered meditation. I had all the time in the world. I was finally ready. I had heard about it. I had tried it in the past, but it didn't quite work for me. And finally, when everything was quiet and I had cleaned my kitchen 5 times, I had nothing else to do, I said, let's go for it. And I was very ripe and vulnerable emotionally, feeling like many people were, um, terrified to face myself suddenly, didn't have the distractions of the past. And so, life removed all of those layers. And so what I initially did as a writer, I started writing meditations based on some of the new insights that were coming to me after finding stillness.
Mm,
And so the meditations I've written are definitely designed also for those who might not feel so comfortable traditionally meditating. So they're more guided. There's more support vocally. It's more of a pep talk with, of course, some moments of silence to reflect and generate your own conclusions, because we can't prescribe anything to anyone. You know, truth is kind of it's very it's a everyone has their own path there, and there's so many ways we can reach that result for ourselves. And the best kind of truth is the one that sticks with us, that comes from ourselves. So ultimately, the goal is really, um, on the one hand, all of us that have kind of reached this place, to be an example, but not to prescribe anything, just to show that it is possible. Because we are all different, and we're all one, but we're all different.
mm. Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
think it's really important to talk about how all of us who are on this path in our journey, people think that for me personally, people are just like, well, you've always been peaceful, you've always been nice and happy. But that wasn't the case, When I first started meditating, similar to like you said, I didn't know how to do that. And I would try to sit down and honestly couldn't do 30 seconds, let alone, 5, 10, 30 minutes. So when you were first starting to try to meditate, what was that? One, what was the problem for you if there were any issues trying to meditate? But then what was that switch you made? Like, how did you make that turn?
So I think very much in the mind. So just like you said you were doing, I also was thirsty for knowledge and looking at, 7 habits of highly effective people, and, reading 48 laws of power, and like figuring out, sort of blindly touch tunneling my way through, you know, key insights, but maybe missing the point when I was reading
Mhm,
it, because I was sort of reading it like, how can I reach the next means end through this information, rather than looking within and seeing that it's really all an inner journey.
mhm.
And so and sorry, what was your question? I forgot.
That's perfectly fine. So, and I 100% like resonate with you just said about reading so many books
Yeah.
to the point where, so am I really ingesting this information or am I just reading the books to say that I read them?
Yeah, or I would just highlight it and I would read it and I'd be like, yeah, this is so true. And the meaning, of course, was filling me up, but not it wasn't I didn't have connection with myself.
Mhm.
So, you know, I would say in the past I was sort of living my life looking for validation from the external. And what that looks like is, you base how you feel about yourself based on maybe your job, or um, your latest like business conquest or promotion, or if you don't have a job, then it's a huge crisis. Like so many of these things, rather than, and then if you make a mistake at work, then you
Mhm.
overanalyze it and you blame yourself. Like, I shouldn't have said that. I should have done this. I should have done that. Instead of understanding that there really is like a greater intelligence, and, that if we follow our inner compass, we're always in the right place at the right time to be discovering the
Mhm.
right thing for ourselves in that moment to get us to the next moment. And every moment is a grid of probabilities that is set up
Mhm.
to our own unique course of growth. And so when we see it that way, we can be more forgiving. And in turn, this forgiveness turns into kindness, which is self love, which then radiates outwards, which then creates situations that come to us that are in alignment. And then we receive synchronicities, which is just a byproduct of this alignment. And then eventually, as we keep on going, we start finding people who are walking that path with us in alignment. And it doesn't, I mean, it's always challenging to go through life no matter what. But having awareness and having the ability, or the awareness to know that you can bring yourself back if things get difficult, or that there
Mhm.
are tools there, then that gives you confidence to approach anything that comes up. And everything that's coming up is something, in a way, that you've called on to yourself, again, to grow. So you choose
Yeah.
every day. You get a choice, like, let's grow by dealing.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny what you said about being aware of the basically kind of like the trials and tribulations you went through before, having gotten
Mhm.
through that and knowing that, well, I've gotten through this, so I can choose to push forward this next thing because it's not going to be as bad as it was before, or rather,
Mhm.
even if it is something pretty detrimental, you know how to deal with it and you can listen to yourself and listen to the universe. And like I said, follow those synchronicities. And ultimately, everything that happens to you, it doesn't really happen to you, it happens for you.
Mhm.
And it's
Exactly.
for your growth, it's for the path that you set out for yourself.
Exactly. Absolutely. And so it's just an inner journey, and as you said, you begin to recognize the flow and the cycle of who you are. And
Mhm.
everybody is, of course, different. So you said before that you were, people are like, well, what's wrong with you? You're peaceful, you got it together, you seem like you can handle stress. Like, I had similar feedback
Mhm.
from others in a different way. People would say, well, you're successful, like, you have a great apartment, you have a good job, but like, you're always happy, you're giving great advice, like, all of these things of made me look a certain way. But again, if we
Mhm.
don't see it in ourselves and we don't ground that together, um, it's very fleeting. It's only as good as the next time someone says something like that. But when you're with yourself at the end of the day by yourself, if there's something still missing or some kind of a void, then that's an invitation to look into that and to play with that feeling. And in my case, the way sometimes growth shows up for me is I do go into these moments of high intensity where it's everything around me is saying stop, like,
Mhm.
don't go out, stay at home, rest, which is the hardest thing. Inaction is harder than action in some ways. And it's
Yeah.
just, you know, um, and during those moments, the the part of me from the past sort of fights to get through, which now I've understood that it's not necessary to follow that judgment, is saying, come on, like, you're home, you have all day, like, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? Why are you not doing this? And so it's easy to like ourselves when we're super productive and when we've achieved a lot of things for the day and like we've done all those things. But on the days that we are needing to rest, like, it's just as important to get through that day with a smile and
Mhm.
have different barometers for what success means, and forgiveness for, for wishing it were different, because it all aligns.
No, I love that, and I've also had that same problem. We're so similar
Oh yeah.
because yeah, because a lot of times I've always been the go, 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 go type of person. You know, when I was working at the hospital as a medical technologist, and I would work all the shifts, all the hours. When I was in the
That's hard.
military, I went everywhere, helped everybody out, did all the things. And when I finally got the opportunity to sit down and rest, I felt as if I was doing something bad or doing something
Mhm.
wrong. And I started having all these negative thoughts on, well, about being lazy and not putting in the work or the effort. But the truth of the matter is, my body is tired. My psyche is tired. My spirit is tired. And you have to take that time to not just sit down and physically rest, but to reflect on the things that you're doing in life because you never had the opportunity to reflect. Then how do you know, or how can you get the intuitive sense that you're moving in the right direction?
Exactly. And sometimes when you're not doing a lot is happening.
Hmm.
And sometimes you're doing a lot and not a lot is happening. And so, it's about knowing when to catch that wave and when to push forward and when to surrender and just like let that moment clear and the waters calm down so that you can then reemerge and then move forward with clearer action. It's all about action. I mean, it's all about, you know, um, following a very, specific task every I would think. I've never been in the military, but it is very, very action oriented.
Yes, definitely is. But we're going to take a quick moment to go to a commercial break. Welcome back, everybody. So before we were talking about the importance of taking a break and really allowing yourself to relax and reflect. But I had a question that I don't know, I'm just really interested in. I know on your website you talk about doing ceremonies and plant medicine. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, that is my ultimate purpose, I think, and joy, and just really the realist part about what helped me get through as well. So I one of the other things that helped me through COVID and just really like I guess blossomed what came out following it was actually microdosing with magic mushrooms.
Mm,
And it was I had always been aware of them. I had tried them for every few years in more recreational settings, and it was a bit of a coincidence. I had a friend of mine who is much older than I am, and she had lymphoma,
mm,
and she had confessed to me that she had always wanted to try them. She was a grandmother and said to me that she wasn't quite sure she could hold them in her house or grow them. And I said, okay, listen, I'll grow them for you and I
mm.
will bring them to you, no problem. And so I received a kit and it flourished 7 times more. So I had so many in my house. It was like I was Pablo Escobar. And I was like, okay, I guess. And something awakened at that moment as well within me where I was singing to them and connecting with them. And I'm not a plant person, unfortunately. I mean, I try every time. I think I can do better. But somehow with these mushrooms, they were just growing. And in the meantime, my house was full of meditation and like I had started practicing, just a lot of different things were breath work and I had two little dogs. So it was really good energy in the house. And so I grew all these mushrooms and basically I went on a bit of a spiritual rocket ship from that point
Mm,
onward where I microdosed myself intuitively and in combination with meditation and just a more mindful approach to life, a lot of things really expedited in terms of
mhm,
insights. And from there on, I explored through some really reputable retreat groups here in Italy. I explored also peyote and ayahuasca, and I got to meet some really incredible um, healers and maestros and shamans from all over the world, and as well as other people who shared those interests. And one person said to me, identified me and said, you need to be giving ceremonies with these mushrooms. And matter of fact, I'm going to plan one for you. And there was 10 people who are interested. I said, um, excuse me? And so it started in this way. Um, I, with a little bit of that knowledge and awareness, and having started working with the other group, I got to do over 20 ceremonies in 1 year. And so it was like a spiritual university for me. And
Mm.
it connected me to even further to some of these indigenous ways of doing things, in addition to energy work that I was doing on the side, which is just as interesting and important. And so I combined them, and then that path started as well. So now I do like to help people if they have an interest in exploring a sacred way towards their inner wisdom through the mushrooms, which I very much still love and grow and sing to. So it's a sacred experience. It's not about getting effed up. Although of course there is a component that includes visions and incredible access to dimensions that might otherwise take a longer path to get to for the average person.
Yes, for sure. I've also experienced with magic mushrooms and microdosing, and I've gone everywhere from the microdosing up to what you would call a shamanic dose, which I'm sure you're aware
Mm,
of.
of
And
course.
and each one, they all have their different places and different uses.
Hmm.
But I will say that that's one of the things that helped to, I would say, skyrocket my intuitive growth and really helped to push me forward and just doing this. Prior to doing any of these things, I actually was almost afraid to talk to people for most of my life, which is crazy to think about because I love talking to people.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
total 180.
for
I
sure.
would never have thought that. Wow.
But when I was microdosing and during meditation and having conversations with my spirit guides, if you will, and I
Of
was
course.
provided with information and ideas of sharing one my transformative journey, but also bringing people on and talking to other people about their transformative journeys as well. And one of my rationales with that is, one, I think that spirituality tends to take on, forgive me saying this, but like a woo woo perspective. People think that it's extremely mystical. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of physicality to it. And it's ancient. It's been around for, thousands of years. But also, you don't have to be some high level priest or shaman or anything like that. Us normal individuals, normal people, we all have spiritual experiences as well. And we're all on our spiritual journeys. And I think it's very important to talk about that.
Of course. I mean, we're spiritual beings having an earthly experience,
Mhm.
uh, first and foremost. So every single person is uniquely equipped with their own incredible connection to whatever planetary existences and forms that make up their evolution. And it's about uncovering that everywhere. And I think it's great that there are people who step up and take on this very specific persona, because it does serve as a guiding light. Uh, but more and more, as I live my experience in life, I find insight in what we would say the common people. I mean, someone at the grocery store says something, and I'm like, aha, that's incredible. That solves that thing I needed to think about. And it's wisdom is within all of us, whether or not we are even aware. It just takes connection to our heart.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes when we take away the woo woo, and we take away the fifth dimension and
Mhm.
Lyrans and the Arcturians, and all, we can go deeper and deeper in Atlantis. When we take that all out, um, the real beauty is when we just find truth and simplicity, and when it resonates across any way. It just, you can feel that's truth, and that brings peace, and that gives resolution. And it's within all of us, and it comes from all of us. And more, I hope that people feel free to share, express, and give that gift that's inside of them.
Yeah, for sure. But that's about all the time that we have today. I really did want to talk about your book. I'm sorry I didn't really get a chance to go into it, but your book actually expresses all the ideas and has guided meditations and everything in it, right?
So yes, the book talks. It's about unpeeling layers, just like your podcast. So there's another coincidence, and it's divided in four parts. It's all about relationships. Of course, it starts with the one we have with ourselves,
Hmm.
and it contains uh, just some guidelines to how to build a more positive relationship with ourselves and those around us, the energy, the universe, romantically, work, friendship, strangers. So just across a variety of dimensions, and hopefully uplifts those who are seeking to have a lighter perspective on life. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on here with us today. We're definitely going to have you come back on because I love this conversation.
this is so fun. I love your vibe.
Thank you so much. I love your vibe as well.
It's really cool.
Alrighty, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.